Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of February 24th, 2026. It is 7:38 and I'm calling this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good evening. Nicole Ayers.
Present.
Jesse Bucklow.
Present.
Josh Goldstein.
Here.
Colin Hostin.
Present.
Johan Lopez.
Here.
Roderick Sawyer. Jalen Seed.
Present.
Dewan Wiggins.
Here.
Darlene Young.
Here.
Nicole Eady.
Here.
Ann Wennerstrand. Here. Jan Denningshoin.
Present.
Richard Dellinger.
Here.
James Freyer.
Here.
Brian Bailey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the first special meeting, February 10th, 2026. Is there a motion, please? Ms. Wennerstrand, are there any corrections, changes? Ms. Wennerstrand?
Madam Mayor, under Section C, Public Works, Item 2, approve the honorary naming of Lincoln Avenue Extension to Master Chief Alexander Restrepo Way should be consent to table.
Thank you. Make note of that. Are there any other changes? Mr. Bucklow.
I need to find out where it is, but in the special session, I'd asked a question to Jared about the way the 6 contracts were spread out. And he provided a lengthy response, but it's omitted from the minutes.
Okay, we'll include those. Anything else, Mr. C?
Yes, there's a few names that need to be like refixed. They were just some typos spelled wrong.
Okay, we'll correct those. Anything else? Yes, Mr. Freyer.
And I had commented on some of the appointments, and none of my comments are included.
We have a new minutes taker, so we will make note of those changes and get on that. So with those changes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? And that carries unanimously. Moving on to the minutes of the regular meeting of February 10th, 2026. Is there a motion, please? Mr. C, are there any corrections, changes, deletions to those minutes? Ms. Eady has a few. Okay, Ms. Eady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, on page 13, it says that I made some comments at that point, and I don't remember making any. So I think those need to be taken down. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the motion of the minutes as amended. It looks unanimous. Any abstentions or nays? Okay. Moving on to public participation. Is there anyone? Do we have a list? Has everyone signed up who would like to speak tonight?
No, I apologize if I'm probably not read this thing correctly. Marij Jankowski.
Please, if you will, state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak, sir.
Good evening. My name is Monty Jankowski. I'm here to speak about the disappointment I have in the operational budget that's being put forward, especially in terms of the funding for the Board of Education. As a longtime Norwalk resident, majority of my life, current property owner, as well as a business owner here in the city of Norwalk. Obviously, I don't want to see taxes go up. I don't think anybody does. But funding the public education system is of utmost importance. I don't know how it was done in years past, but I spent the last year reviewing the Board of Education budgeting process. And what is being presented this year is a maintenance budget. There's nothing new in there. It's just to maintain the staffing levels and programs that are in place at this time. And with the proposed budget that's being put forward, there's gonna have to be cuts. It's about $6 million short, which when I looked at it from what that means to a personal property tax, for example, on my house, that would equate to about $140 increase in taxes to be able to fund that budget completely. And again, although I wouldn't want to necessarily pay it, I think it's necessary to keep the programs going that the school has, keep the staffing levels that there are. Consistently from the Board of Education, we hear about issues and difficulties with recruitment and retainage of staff members. How can you expect them to be able to recruit and retain employees when every year there's always this dramatic fear of cuts and layoffs? This is a significant amount of positions that would be lost. And it's going to make it all that much more difficult to recruit quality certified staff in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Sheffield.
Good evening. Thank you all for your service and your valuable time. My name is Dr. Carrie Sheffield. I am a school psychologist within Norwalk Public Schools, a clinical psychologist, and a devoted supporter and collaborator with boards of education and city and town councils here in Connecticut and out of state. And I can tell you there is one consistent, undeniable truth, that strong public schools are the driving force of strong, desirable communities. They protect our property values, they attract families and businesses, they stabilize neighborhoods, and they keep cities moving forward. So I ask you, do you own a home in Norwalk? Are you representing those who do? Because the majority of households in Norwalk do not currently have a school-age child, yet every single one of those households depends on strong public schools to protect property values and to sustain a desirable community. When schools thrive, property values rise. When school funding falls short, property values decrease, and communities feel it. A 4% increase leaves a $6.7 million gap. That gap impacts services, staffing, and the students who will shape Norwalk's future. This is not just a school issue. This is a community issue. It is an economic issue. So I ask you to keep Norwalk moving forward. Vote yes on restoring the full 6.5% request. The time is now. Norwalk's future starts and depends on our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Howard White.
Good evening, Howard White, 300 Ely Ave, also MPS board chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you here this evening as well. As you know, in December, we, the board, approved a 6.5 increase. Since that time, 4% is what we received. Now, I have to be honest and say that, last year was the year, in 3 years, this was the first year that we stayed at a status quo, and our focus was to stay at that point for the simple fact that we needed to look at it from our teachers and our students as well. So I say that to say that, you know, we need to understand that, you know, yes, the taxes are the issues and yes, they are the problems. However, when it comes to the education aspect of it, I just think it's very important that we really take these children and these teachers in consideration. You know, what we're up against right now is basically putting us back where we were at last year. That's not something that we want to do. Our goal is to move forward. That's the reason why we focus on the 6.5 for what we did last year. So I'm asking you just to, you know, take that in consideration. And when you're looking at the votes, look at it from the standpoint, it's the students and the teachers that are the ones that are going to suffer overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Mary Ellen Flaherty Ludwig.
Good evening, Mayor Smith and council members. Good evening. I am Mary Ellen Flaherty Ludwig, resident at 89 Soundview Avenue. I thank you for listening to me and to us. Tonight is an important vote for our community. I am here to ask you, the members of the City Council, to amend the Board of Education budget up 1% from the 4 to 5%. I am currently a member of the Board of Education, and I wonder if you understand what that 1% could do. If we understand that 1% more would mean $2.4 million and roughly 20 teaching positions. Here's some background on some difficulties that all the teachers and the programs are facing. First, according to demographic studies in Norwalk recently, looking at the births and the children entering kindergarten, the next year, we will experience a reduction of students. This reduction is scattered in different schools in our system. One high school was losing quite a few, another high school is gaining more. Different elementary schools, it's scattered. But the shakeout is after we all figure out what teachers are too many at one school and bring them to another school, there will be a few teachers that we're losing. Second pressure is from the shortfall from the 6.5 to potentially 4%. Even with more than half of that coming from central office or non-student facing positions, some of the shortfall will hit teachers. Still, compared to last year, we're in better shape. Even so, every classroom, every program, every teacher is important. It has not gone unnoticed to me and to many the gigantic support that your council has given Norwalk Public Schools. For example, the new schools, those the state gives 60%, you give 40%. If I could just finish this, that everyone in this room, I feel, in my view, has a right to hold the banner of "We are here for the kids." My ask is 1% more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Medard Thomas.
Esteemed members of the Common Council, here we go again. First of all, I believe that we're all on the same side. We all love Norwalk and we love our children. I think we're seeing things through different lenses. Some of us through a primrose-colored lens and others with a slightly cloudier lens. But nonetheless, it's a viewpoint. The goal is for all of us, the precious stakeholders, to communicate in a way that honors all perspectives and takes various viewpoints into consideration. My name is Medard Thomas. I'm father to Dylan, who attended the revered Marvin Elementary School, Nathan Hale Middle School, and Norwalk High School. And now he's living his life as a junior at Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. My middle child, Alina, who attended Marvin and Concord Magnet School, and now she is at Norwalk High School. And the littlest one, Riley, who has been at Concord Magnet School and getting ready for high school next year. I've watched each child thrive in their respective schools. Each child, an individual. You wouldn't know that they were reared in the same household, by the same parents, eating the same food, at times facing the same accountability or justice when something goes awry. Their teachers saw them as different people and treated them as their own person. Their beloved teachers treating them and elevating them to their highest potential. Their teachers loving them so much and treating them with the utmost respect. I salute our teachers and administrators for seeing the magic in each of my children. I ask that you support our schools so that our children can be on par with their neighbors in the adjoining Gold Coast communities. My kids will be fine, but others will not be so fine if the budget is cut. Now, I'm here also as Mr. T, the proud principal at Concord Magnet School. It got to be transparent. And I'm here to speak on behalf of my esteemed colleagues, the paraprofessionals, the teachers, the administrators, the kitchen workers, the custodians, assistant principals, and the principals. Please give us what we need to do our jobs. No, it's not a job. It's a responsibility. It's a calling. I don't want to perform miracles with very little. I will
30
do so
seconds
if I'm happy to
remaining.
be. But please give us what we need in order to propel our children and ultimately our city into the pantheon of leaders that we deserve to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who's here in the chamber that would like to speak, even if you didn't sign up? Just like to give you the opportunity.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. Mary Jordan, 9 Mott Avenue. I'm speaking on behalf of the Norwalk Federation of Teachers. It was said previously already, we recognize that you are all on the team with us. We are all here for the Norwalk Public Schools, for the city of Norwalk. We know that there are interests to be balanced. There is an impact to these budget struggles, the gap to be closed. We wish that it would not impact so many teachers. It has an impact right now as people are wondering how they will manage their careers and their next steps. Will it be here for these wonderful kids and in this wonderful community that supports so carefully our schools? We would love for you to work carefully with our Board of Education leaders to come up with the right size for this budget, for all of the proportionality within the budget for the city of Norwalk. We need money to run the schools. We need money even when there is a decrease in enrollment, there is a overhead cost that doesn't go down. Our teachers are highly committed to the students, and we need a well-functioning system. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. Anyone else before we go online? Okay, Simon, you could just move folks over as their hands are raised.
Up is Ashley G.
Thank you. You all can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Golias. I live at 5 Cliffview Drive. I am the Board of Education Secretary, but more importantly, I'm the parent of a Norwalk Public Schools student. My daughter is in 2nd grade at Concord Magnet School, and I cannot say enough positive things about her experience thus far in Norwalk Public Schools. She has received enrichment opportunities in math, an area in which she excels. She has received additional support in reading, which has not come as easily to her. She loves going to school every day. It is never a fight in the mornings to head down to the bus stop, and she's a happy kid when she gets off the bus in the afternoons. As a Board of Education member, I know how thinly stretched our district is from top to bottom. I can't fathom what my child and her peers' school experience might look like if additional cuts need to be made to reconcile the 6.5% budget increase that we, the Board of Ed, approved in December to the 4% increase that the mayor has proposed and the Finance and Claims Committee has moved forward to you all this evening. It is impossible to reconcile that $6.5 million difference without impacting student-facing programs and positions, and I believe that you all know that. I know that our mayor and some of you have advocated at the state level for increased funding, and for that I am very grateful, especially as we have highlighted time and again the impact of increased special education costs on our budget. But the reality is that the timeline for our budget does not line up with the state's timeline. We need to reconcile our budget well before we'll ever know what additional funds we may or may not get from the state. And for that, we need Norwalk to step up for our students. Last year, I spoke in public comment at this very same meeting, along with many other parents, and I was disappointed that the full city council had little to no discussion before going forward with the budget as it was proposed by the mayor. I ask you tonight, at the very least, have a discussion about this. Recognize that what we're all saying is true. The 6.5% budget increase that the board approved was lean. It offered only what we need to maintain our current level of services. A 4% increase simply is not enough. If you choose to go forward with 4%, I hope to also hear meaningful conversation about ways the city can generate revenue beyond tax dollars to help fund our schools. We know that the system for funding education in our state is inadequate, but we don't have time to wait for the necessary systemic change. We need solutions now. I sincerely hope you will discuss and consider raising the Board of Education budget above 4%, and I expect to hear serious conversations about generating revenue going forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Next is Katie M.
Hi, my name is Katie McFate. I live at 6 Rampart Road and I have an 8 and 11-year-old at CMS. I'm here to ask you to fully fund the Board of Ed's requested 6.5% increase. The 4.5% is not a small trim. It is a gap that will land in classrooms and will land hardest on the families who have the least room to absorb it. The families most affected by these decisions tonight are often the least visible in the room. They're not here because they're caring for someone at home, working a night shift, or in today's climate, they don't feel safe speaking publicly. But their children will be sitting in Norwalk's classrooms tomorrow. Since last year, my children's friends have already felt these cuts. We lost our Japanese teacher, and now fluent Spanish speakers are in Spanish class learning kindergarten level vocabulary because we no longer have the programming that meets multilingual students where they are. Since our family joined the school system in 2020, our children have received no-cost breakfast and lunch. This is not a perk. It's a critical support that helps students come to school ready to learn. After-school programs like the school play are often the only extracurricular activities some students can access because they are offered at no cost. And last year, we came close to losing our drama teacher. And that made it clear how quickly these cuts can reach our teachers and our programs that keep children connected to school. We really need to make this possible. We've lived through these consequences of underfunding last year. 43 positions were eliminated and so many more staff members resigned. Our teachers are tired and they, in these yearly budget battles, send a message that may be better appreciated somewhere else. And Norwalk's needs are not shrinking. And I know you're thinking about the bottom line because I am too. The underfunding our schools is flawed, but underfunding our schools is a flawed version of a fiscal discipline. If we keep forcing these cuts, we keep giving families a reason to leave Norwalk for neighboring districts or to stretch for private school if they can. That means fewer families choosing Norwalk, fewer families staying in Norwalk, and over time, a weaker tax base. If we want to be a city that attracts and keeps families, protects property values, and grows responsibly, we need strong public schools. Funding schools is not separate from the city's financial health. It is central to it. So my ask of you is this: when you discuss budget cuts, truly understand the year you are determining for our children and the long-term consequences for this city. I have seen Norwalk come together, get creative, and bring amazing solutions to the table. Can we do that now for the kids and for Norwalk? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Nick.
Good evening, Nick Zerzan, 1 Jean Avenue. Good to see you, council members, and Mayor Smith. Great to see you up there. I'm calling. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person, but I got stuck in Florida here. But I'm calling to ask you guys to please fully fund this budget. I've said it ad nauseum, and you know, I hope that someone's going to own this one this time, and it's not the same thing as last year. Here we are again. You know, it's a flat funded budget. It's not like we're cutting things that superfluous things. So there's people that are going to lose their jobs if you guys don't increase this funding. And are you guys willing to go and look at our scholars' faces and say, sorry, we lost our music program? Are you going to talk to the teachers and say, sorry, you no longer have a job? Or is it going to be this fake news stuff and let's throw these Board of Ed members under the bus and, you know, there's no transparency in the budget and this sort of stuff where there's finger pointing and, you know, it's a superintendent, her inflated salary and all this kind of nonsense. That's not the reality of the situation. And, you know, I just would really like to see Mayor Smith. I have the utmost faith in you, and I'm so happy to see you up there. And I know that if anyone's capable of making lemonade out of lemons, it's you. And you've had great life experience, and you have a great team on the council. So can we please try to rally and work collaboratively? Because you guys all have the same intentions in mind. That's the Norwalk citizens, the Norwalk students, keeping taxes low. And we're in a difficult situation. You inherited a nightmare. I don't know if anyone had a chance to read Erica DePalma's thing online that went kind of viral. That was really good stuff. But our students depend on this budget, and we don't need Representative Duff to come in at the last minute. Thank God he did last year and save us. But it created a lot of conflict, and we lost a lot of good teachers and a lot of community cohesiveness through that. So we don't need our superintendent to hustle up money to save the school lunch program. And, you know, God knows, I believe in American exceptionalism, and that starts with our students. And we're not North Korea here. I know, you know, it's expensive, but you want to continue this great trajectory that the Norwalk schools have had. I can't tell you how proud I am and what wonderful, wonderful, amazing people from, you know, bottom
30
to the
seconds
top
remaining.
that we have in these schools. You're not going to get that by, you know, going with the cheapest option. We want the brightest and the best, and we have a lot of that. Let's not lose them to other school districts. Please, our kids depend on you, and thank you guys so much for your service. I really appreciate the job you guys are doing, but please let's make this happen. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Zerzan.
Up next is Anna T.
We're gonna say hello. Hi, this is Anna Tabashnik. I live at 4 Gilbert Street, and I do. And I'm here with my daughter, Brenda. We live in Norwalk. We live in Norwalk. I don't know if you could hear that. We don't have anything prepared. We just want to beg you to please fund the 6.5% and understand that that budget is just as much of a maintenance budget as the city side mayor's proposed budget for the non-BOE costs. And that the difference between the mayor's proposed budget, the 7% overall, and what it would be overall if the BOE was fully funded is truly negligible. I understand that any increase is an increase, but when we're already facing double-digit property taxes increases from the reval, from the fact that our properties have risen in value tremendously, that's the bulk of the increase in taxes. The difference to fully fund the Board of Ed versus the cost in the loss of services in teachers, it just doesn't make sense. Fund our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tabashnik.
Up next is Amanda.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Amanda de Miranda, 25 County Street. I have a daughter and a son in Aramaic Elementary. So I'm just here, just as a concerned parent. I'm so proud to live in Norwalk. I tell everybody how great it is to be living here. But the numbers, they continue to grow. Today, 1 out of 34 children today is diagnosed with autism. I have 2 autistic children, and many also they live with invisible disabilities. We cannot afford to lose funding in our schools because those children, they depend on those services to thrive. Norwalk, we are a diverse and caring community, but being caring means we need to protect the resources that help our most vulnerable children succeed. Some of our students, they need extra support to keep up academically, socially, and emotionally, so that they can compete with peers from other districts. We know how much it is important. Those early years, they're critical for the development due to the neuroplasticity. And research shows that the earlier intervention begins, the better the outcome will be throughout their lives. Those services, they are not luxury, they are a necessity. Cutting funding will risk leaving children behind during the most important years of their growth. Investing in early support is investing in the future of our children and our community. I urge you to protect those funding and assure every child has the opportunity to succeed. May God bless all of you. Thank you so much for your services.
Thank you.
Up next is Julia.
Hi there, Julia Bain, 18 Crooked Trail. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm the mom of a rising kindergartner and a second grader, and I implore you to fund the BOE requested budget that will allow the district to maintain the status quo in educational services. As a taxpayer and a product of public education, the months-long uncertainty over the last 2 budget cycles in Norwalk have shaken my belief. Our kids and our educators deserve better. Last year, the budget process lasted from February and through June. That's 4 months of uncertainty, and here's a snapshot of what that means as a parent. My second grader tells me, I want to play the cello next year, and I have to say, I hope so. What I don't say, if music isn't cut, she says, I love my assistant principal. She makes my day better, and I hope I see her every morning next year. And I say, I hope so. And what I don't say is, if she isn't reassigned. She says, I hope my brother has the amazing teacher I had. And I have to say, I hope so. What I don't say, if she doesn't lose her job. And she says, I hope my best friend is in my class next year. And I say, I hope so. And what I don't say is your best friend last year moved to a neighboring town and your other best friend was enrolled in private school because of the budget situation. Our kids, our teachers, our administrators, and our communities deserve better than I hope so. And they certainly deserve better than 4 months, a third of a year of I hope so. Please step in and look for constructive solutions now. Our community deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please raise your hand if you are watching digitally. One more.
There is no one else at this time, Madam Mayor.
I think there is one person. I see Amanda Robbins. Her hand just went up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I think everybody who's spoken tonight has done a really beautiful job. And so I thank everybody who was able to attend in person and who is watching online. And I thank you all, Common Council members, for your service to our city. And I'm just here to reiterate and add my voice to the many numbers of parents and educators and doctors who have come on this evening in support of raising the intended budget from the 4% proposal to even just 1% increase, or hopefully the full 6% increase. As many have already stated, this is really a maintenance budget. There's not a lot of extras or additions. And the challenges that our nation is facing of rising healthcare costs and transportation costs and food costs, I hope will not be a burden on the shoulders of our scholars and our children. Our taxes as property owners are already rising, and we've already made our voices known in who we voted for this election cycle. And I voted for members who stated in their campaigns that they would support our school systems. So I hope that you will all be true to your word, not leave anybody in doubt, and put our taxes that we pay as citizens and in good faith to use for our families and our children. They really are our future, and we can't do any better than fully funding a strong educational system for the city as a whole.
Thank you. One last call. If there's anyone else who would like to speak. Okay, then I will go ahead and close public participation and move on now to resignations and appointments. The first is the resignation of Michelle Sawyer from the Board of Ethics. We don't have to, we just accept it. Okay. Next are reappointments. First, the reappointments of Megan Douglas, Ashley Petrides, and Harriet Petrides to the Board of Assessment and Appeals as alternates. Mr. Frayer?
I'd like to move the appointment from Megan, excuse me, Megan Douglas, Ashley Petrides, and Harriet Petrides. These women have been members of the Board of Appeals, or the Board of Assessment Appeals in previous terms and done a wonderful job. All three of them are very successful realtors here in Norwalk as well as in Darien. And I think they'll do a very good job in continuing the work that the Board of Assessment Appeals does.
Are there any other comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, they pass unanimously. Moving on to the reappointment of John Church to the Fair Rent Commission. Ms. Edie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to move John Church and Ms. Dora Witherspoon.
We have to vote on those separately because one's a regular and one's an alternate.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just do Mr. Church first.
Okay. Mr. Church works for one of the top accounting firms, Deloitte LLP. He's a managing director, and he's been with them for 13 and a half years, doing audits, conflicts, and compliance requirements. And he has also held many positions there. Mr. Church is a trustee at the Temple Shalom of Norwalk. He is also a commissioner for the Norwalk Housing Authority, and he has served on the Fair Rent Commission for more than 20 years. I wanted to mention, as you know, I kind of like to lighten it up a little bit because I didn't know Mr. Church. So I did ask him what his favorite food was. So I did. And he likes to order a large cheese pizza from East Avenue Pizza. And his hobby is he likes baseball like I do, and he likes the Pittsburgh Pirates. And so let's welcome John back to the Fair Rent Commission. and we thank him for his service.
Thank you, Ms. Edie. Are there any other comments? Ms. Young?
Thank you, Mayor. So I wasn't going to say anything until I heard the 30-year experience, Mr. Church. I had the pleasure of working, not so much working with you, but when I worked in Fair Rent and Human Relations is where I really met you. And to find out that you have spent that much of your time on that commission says a whole lot about who you are and what you do in this city, because that's not an easy thing to deal with when people are dealing with insecurity in their housing. And as a committee trying to rectify and remediate those types of situations that are very stressful. And people are going through that on a consistent basis. So I appreciate your years of service in doing that, your commitment to the city, and your commitment to the residents of Norwalk.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call for the vote on John Church's reappointment. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? And that carries unanimously. And go ahead, Ms. Evie, with the reappointment of Dora Witherspoon as an alternate.
Okay, yes, it is my pleasure to move Ms. Witherspoon back to the Fair Housing Commission. Dora is a senior level IT person. She has worked for major corporations, for Gartner, for Amex, Pitney Bowes, and she is currently at NBC Universal, which she's been there for 10 plus years. She works in, she does test engineering, quality assurance, and programming, and she has been doing it for the Olympics for quite a few years. And she has been missing in action the last 2 weeks because she has been at the Olympics doing some programming for them. I've known Dora for a while, but I hadn't spoken with her in a while. So it was great to talk to her. And her favorite food is lasagna, and her hobby is bowling. And so we just want to welcome Dora back to the commission, and we thank her for her service.
Thank you, Ms. Edie. I love the personal touch. Are there any other comments? Yes, Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Edie, for all that information. It's nice. Just wanted to say, Ms. Witherspoon comes from a family who serves this city. And so appreciate her and her family for all that they do and the time that they give to the city. So I just hope she can make it off the alternate list too, and really get in there and be a part of the commission. So
thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? And that reappointment carries unanimously as well. Thank you to all the reappointments for continuing to serve. We appreciate it. And then moving on to the appointment of Jacqueline Arias to the Board of Assessment and Appeals as a regular. This subject to the approval of the 14-day rule waiver, which will be read on the consent calendar. And your vote will be the approval of the waiver. I do thank you. We had some urgency in terms of getting this appointment moved forward. So who would like to move it, please? Mr. Frayer.
I'd like to move Jacqueline Arias forward to participate on the Board of Assessment and Appeals as an alternate. No, as a regular. I'm sorry. This is a reappointment, I believe, and she has it's a new appointment. I'm sorry, it's a new appointment, but she is a very well-recognized real estate agent here in Norwalk. Or I'm sorry, in Darien. She lives in Norwalk, but she works in Darien, and very familiar with the area, and should be a real asset to the Board of Assessment and Appeals.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Abstentions? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Arias, for agreeing to serve and help with those assessment appeals. And I know there are quite a few waiting for her. Next, moving on to Mayor's remarks. On behalf of the city of Norwalk, I would like to wish our Muslim residents a peaceful and blessed Ramadan. This month of fasting, reflection, and generosity is a meaningful time for many in our community. May it bring you strength, renewal, and joy. Ramadan Mubarak. Happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate in our community. As families gather to welcome the new year, may this season bring happiness, good health, prosperity, and renewed hope. Wishing you peace and joy in the year ahead. This week, we celebrate Public Schools Week, a time to recognize the incredible work happening in our classrooms every day. To our students, educators, and staff, thank you for your commitment, your resilience, and your belief in the power of public education. I'm proud of all of you, and although we are celebrating you this week, we really celebrate you all year long. So here we are in the middle of the budget process, and tonight the council here, you will discuss and vote on the budget cap, and then it will go to the BET where they will meet with each department to go line by line through the proposed budget to make any changes they feel is necessary. The next opportunity for the public to speak on the budget will be at the BET public hearing on March 25th. Make sure to note that in your calendar. That's a very important time to speak. I'm not going to go through all the things that I said in the last meeting of the Finance Committee, but you know, there's a lot driving the budget this year. One is skyrocketing healthcare costs, which is not unique to Norwalk, and it's affecting both the city side and the Board of Education side tremendously. Two is contractual obligations. There were 6 union agreements negotiated at the same time this year, and that's really a burden on us. The revaluation phase, and of course, we are in the 3rd year of that. And I also just, you know, want to note in terms of, you know, the recommended budget, one thing that I did make sure that we did, and, you know, Jared, I know that, you know, we had to talk about it quite a bit, but I felt it was really important to include the entire 4.5 million that was given at the end of the budget season last year, to include that in the base this year. And so the 4% is on top of that. So I just wanted to point that out. We're doing everything that we can to make responsible investments in the future of Norwalk and develop a long-term plan for how to address these issues. Moving forward, we are investing in our internal services fund. Investing in that fund means offsetting the cost of increases for residents. Growing the grand list. The grand list has grown and is continuing to grow with more businesses opening all the time. We will see that change in the next rebound. We just kind of have to get through this. Other revenue streams that we're looking into for the city, not so that we are, you know, looking at every revenue stream we can find so that we don't have to rely so much on tax dollars. And education funding. I have been working very closely with other mayors. I have met with Mayor Simmons in Stamford to work as hard as we possibly can to increase education funding. I am not giving up for this year. I know that a lot of the things that are being talked about, there's, you know, a group of mayors who are working to increase ECS funding. But I'm not going to stop until I get some answers and see some changes. So I'm going to continue working with those mayors and continuing to advocate in Hartford. Somebody said it, I think it was maybe, Ashley. You know, I did speak last night in a DTC meeting to Will Haskell to make sure that that message gets through to the governor. I'll actually see the governor later this week, and I intend to pull him aside and say the same thing. So I'm very committed to walking the walk here and doing everything that I can as your mayor to increase funding. Finally, the Mayor's Ball. I want to remind everyone, you can still purchase tickets to the Mayor's Ball, which is on March 6th, next week already. You can purchase tickets by visiting norwalkct.gov or checking out our social media channels. The two beneficiaries this year are the amazing organizations doing great work right here in Norwalk, Triangle Community Center and Mid-Fairfield Community Care Center. Organizations that work with our marginalized and vulnerable youth and families. And that is it for the mayor's remarks. And I will now turn it over to Council President Josh Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say thank you as well. And obviously there's a lot going into the budget season and there'll be more comments later. But for now, I'd like to turn over the reading of the consent calendar to Councilmember Colin Huston.
Right. Make me put my glasses on. This is the consent calendar for February 24th, 2026. Starting with A, finance and claims. We have one narrative on tax collections dated February 2026. I'm sorry, starting with 6, the Corporation Council. See, you better glasses already. 1, amend charter section 10.5a from stating that it takes effect, quote, on or before February 28th each year, to instead state that it takes effect, quote, on or before February 28th, 2027, and on or before February 28th each year thereafter. Also amend charter section 11-5 to add language, quote, and as amended pursuant to CGS section 7-191B, pertaining to the modification of budget adoption dates, end quote. In finance and claims, we have 1, the narrative on tax collections dated February 2026. 2, the monthly tax collectors report dated January 2026. 3, the claims committee report dated February 2026. 4, a resolution to approve a special appropriation totaling $140,000 for the Norwalk Recovery Program account noted. The Norwalk Recovery Program includes the hiring of a recovery coach position within the Norwalk Police Department and grants to substance use organizations serving Norwalk residents. 5 is a resolution to transfer unexpended funds to a new project. And it goes, be it resolved that a special capital appropriation of $275,000 is hereby transferred from the combined dispatch capital project for the communications upgrade account noted to the city's Office of Building Management Department on behalf of the Historical Commission for the conservatory project account noted and referenced below. Be it further resolved that a special capital appropriation of $275,000 is hereby transferred to the city's Office of Building Management Department on behalf of the Historical Commission for the research, design, and engineering work associated with the conservatory at the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. Funds will be appropriated to a new account as noted, established upon final approval from the City Council. Item B1, approve changes to Chapter 33A, Complete Streets, Section 33A-8, Exceptions. Item B2, approve changes to Chapter 29, Cannabis, Section 29-6, Enforcement, Fine, Citation, Hearing, Report. Item C1, authorize Mayor Barbara C. Smith to enter into an agreement for the use of Calf Pasture Beach by Coachman Car Club for their car show to be held on Tuesday, May 12th, June 9th, July 14th, and August 11th, 2026, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. with rain dates on Friday, May 15th, June 12th, July 17th, and August 14th, 2026, for approximately 150 people. Item C2, authorize Mayor Barbara C. Smith to enter into an agreement for the use of Veterans Park by Norwalk Seaport for their Oyster Festival to be held on Friday, September 11th, 2026 from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., Saturday, September 12th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday, September 13th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Set up on Friday, August 14th, 2026 at 8 a.m. with teardown by Wednesday, September 30th, 2026 at 8 p.m. for approximately 35,000 people. Item C3, authorize the Mayor Barbara C. Smith to enter into an agreement for the use of Veterans Park by Sonotainment for their second annual Juneteenth Carnival fundraiser to be held on Friday, June 19th, 2026 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday, June 20th, 2026 from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, June 21st, 2026 from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Set up on Wednesday, June 17th, 2026 at 8 a.m. with tear down by Tuesday, June 23rd at 9 p.m. for approximately 200 people. Item C4, authorize the Mayor Barbara C. Smith to enter into an agreement for the use of Calf Pasture Beach by Whittingham Cancer Center for their Northwell Health Walk to Raise Health to be held on Sunday, May 17th, 2026 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Set up on Saturday, May 16th, 2026 at 7 a.m. for approximately 700 people. Item C5, authorize the Mayor Barbara C. Smith to enter into an agreement for the use of Rowayton School Field by Rowayton PTA for their Rowayton Elementary School Carnival to be held on Friday, May 1st, 2026 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, May 2nd, 2026 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the rain date of Sunday, May 3rd. Set up on Wednesday, April 29th, 2026 at 7 a.m. with tear down by Sunday, May 3rd at 10 a.m. for approximately 2,000 people. Item C6, authorize the Mayor Barbara C. Smith to approve the December 1st, 2025 lease amendment to the original contract dated June 3rd, 2016 by and between the City of Norwalk and the Aspetuck Land Trust Incorporated for a lease agreement for a portion of 328 Flax Hill Road known as Photo Farm. Item C7, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a sole source purchase order to SignPro Inc. in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for the manufacture and installation of 32 gateway signs at various park locations from account noted. And item D1, authorize the Mayor Barbara C. Smith to execute any and all agreements and other documents to extend the term of the Law Department's document management software net documents for a period of 3 years in the amount of $477.28 in year one, $11,001.04 in year two, and $11,660.96 in year three on a sole source procurement basis. And that is our consent calendar.
Thank you, Councilmember Hostin. The consent calendar now having been read, I would like to take a vote on the consent calendar. All in favor? That is unanimous. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. And for item 7A6 to Mr. Breyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the following recommended financial year 2026-27 operating budget, maximum limit on total appropriations pursuant to section 10-5A of the city charter. Whereas section 10-5A of the Norwalk Charter requires that a majority of the city council vote to establish a specific limit on local appropriations during the process of establishing the next fiscal year's operating budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Norwalk that the maximum limit on the total appropriation of the City of Norwalk's general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 shall be no more than $483,978,290. Be it further resolved that the result of this vote and resolution be forwarded to the clerk of the City of Norwalk to the Board of Education and Taxation. I'd like to move this item and I'd like to say a few words about it. All budgets are complicated. I was in business for over 50 years doing budgets, and no one ever came up to me and said, wow, this has been really easy and I got everything I was looking for. What we're doing tonight is that we're being asked to set a cap or a limit or a ceiling on what the spending, the tentative spending that has been prepared by the department heads and the Board of Education and reviewed by the city CFO and the mayor. This cap will also limit the individual taxpayer's obligation. In other words, it will give us an estimate of what our taxes might look like next year. Our taxes are calculated. Are our taxes calculated on this budget? No, not at this point. But now is the time that the real work begins. The Board of Estimate and Taxation, which is a bipartisan board made up of the citizens of all parts of Norwalk who have a significant financial background, will begin on March 1st through the 19th of the month to meet with all department heads and the Board of Education to review their tentative budgets. On March 25th, the BET will hold a public hearing to obtain input from the general public. Finally, on April 6th, they will vote on the tentative budget and send it back to the City Council for their approval at that meeting on their meeting on April 14th. If approved, the council and the BET sets the final, if approved by the council, the BET then sets the final budget and the tax levy. So what are we doing this evening? So this evening, we're going to take a look at this year. We've studied this year's budget that's been presented to the Finance and Claims Committee at a special meeting last week. That committee voted 6-1 to approve the cap of 7%. This tentative operating budget of $484 million represents an increase of over the prior year of $32 million, broken down by $22 million or 11% for the city and $11 million or 4% for the BOE. Our responsibility is to approve a cap for the entire budget, not just individual caps for the city or for the Board of Education. The BET will be flexible, will be given, has the flexibility in their analysis, recommending increases or decreases in spending or increases or decreases in spending either for the city or the Board of Education, as long as it stays within that cap that's been adopted tonight. These are significant increases for both the city and the Board of Education. Both entities are faced with increased fringe benefits and workers' compensation, insurance, debt service, the effects of the revaluation, as was mentioned earlier this evening, and particularly some of the renegotiated contracts that were approved during the course of last summer, which also had a retroactive impact that affects this year's salaries. When looking at these significant increases, we need to recognize the impact on our taxpayers as well. The tentative operating budget cap of 7% will impact our taxpayers by taking a look at the median taxpayers, and which would have an increase of 10.1% to 16.8%, or in cash, $990 to $2,632 additional per year. The effect of raising the cap to 7.5%, which can be done by resolution this evening, would push a 7.5 increase would push the percentage changes from 11.2% to 17.5%. In dollars, that's $1,041 to over almost $3,000 per year per person. Okay? That is where we stand today. And anybody has any comments or questions? We also have our CFO, Jared Schmidt, here with us this evening.
I also want to point out that CFO for the Board of Education, Linda Asmani, is logged in as a participant. So Simon, if we could move him over, just in case anyone has any questions, I want to make sure that you know that he is here also. Questions, comments? You may begin.
Could you repeat their name for me, Madam Mayor?
Oh, Linda, Lunda Asmani, Asmani. I saw him a little while ago. I know he's here.
He just raised his hand.
Yeah, there he is. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor Chair. Madam Mayor. No, of course, I want to thank the parents, for being so engaged year after year in these budget deliberations. And I say that because as someone that grew up in Norwalk, as a student of the MPS system, schools were significantly underfunded. Where I, as a student, had no one in my orbit to advocate. So it really pleases me, makes me very happy how, the progress that MPS has made. So I really do want to thank you because it's something that really means a lot to me, whether you submit, comments, share presence here, or even, making public statements. So I really do want to appreciate it because it means a lot to me now that I'm on the legislative side of things. It's a unique position to see the before and after. Not to diminish that there's still challenges at the state level and obviously at the federal level, but I just want to thank you. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Mr. Hostin.
I also want to thank all the constituents who have been advocating on behalf of their priorities. I want to thank the staff, both CFOs here at the city side and the school side for putting these numbers together. It's a lot, and it's a lot for all of us to kind of take in and absorb, and particularly for those of us who are tasked with voting on those numbers tonight. Honestly, my impulse after hearing the presentations, hearing the public comment, and really doing some personal reflection and soul searching is to propose something that may not be seen as entirely popular in this room and outside of this room. And I would like to propose an amendment to this proposal, and the amendment would raise the cap to $486 million, $486,300,000, $486.3 million. That math, very messy, is based on a proposed increase to the Board of Ed budget as proposed here from a 4% increase. And again, I like to make sure that we're always using the right terminology. No budget cuts have been proposed tonight. An increase of 4% has been proposed. My proposal is to increase that to change that 4% to 5.2%. Which creates a total tax levy of just under $404 million. I want to explain myself before folks respond. I think it's fair to say that the budget as proposed on tonight's agenda is not one, I think by the mayor's own admission, that any of us wants to pass tonight. It's one that is going to increase the tax burden for Norwalk residents at a time when that's not an easy thing for a lot of residents to do. This is from the start a budget that I don't want to propose or approve, and I don't think any of my colleagues want to, right, at the proposed 7.04%. So if that's the baseline, I have to agree with my colleague, Mr. Freyer, that part of our task tonight is to think about how do we position that budget that nobody wants in a way that can satisfy as many of our constituencies as possible. The initial impulse, as many commenters have said, is to try to find excess in the budget and trim the budget. Okay, and that's what we try to do every single year. And anybody who's paying attention, and all my colleagues and I, our compatriots at the City Hall staff and the Board of Ed staff have combed through these numbers. I don't think there is much excess or really any excess fat. As somebody called it earlier, it's a maintenance budget on both ends. This is just to maintain the status quo. And so it's really tough to consider making any kind of cuts to the numbers proposed tonight. The reason I'm proposing raising the cap is that when I think about three of our top priorities, which is, being fiscal stewards of the city's budget, making sure that we are managing the city's budget prudently, and not placing an undue burden on Norwalk taxpayers, and funding the city services, including public education, at a way that that keeps Norwalk as a place that people want to live and thrive. The current budget doesn't satisfy that. As proposed, it doesn't satisfy that. I'll tell you why. It is fiscally responsible. We are making sure that we are not raiding Norwalk's coffers in a way that might harm our bond rating, but it hurts taxpayers. The budget as proposed tonight hurts taxpayers. If we vote for the budget as proposed tonight, we can't do so in a way that pretends to protect taxpayers. And it puts our public schools in a position that creates undue compromise when we can raise the cap slightly and still be fiscally responsible, put our schools on better footing, and still have to tell the taxpayers that this is not what we want to do, right? So we, either way, this is something that we have to look taxpayers in the face and say, we are raising your taxes. Whether we vote for this amendment or not, we are raising the people's taxes. So that's my logic. In a way, I think this challenge presents us with an opportunity because frankly, as others have said, the competition we're having today is the same competition we had last year and the year before that, and we'll likely have the year after that. That's because none of these funding challenges stem from local issues. None of these funding challenges are things that we can solve by combing through a budget line by line and saying you should cut this and cut that. None of them, right? We know that these are systemic challenges. In some way, they have created the problems we face today by design. We can go into a history lesson about that. But they take systemic change. And I think that's an opportunity that we have as a council, as a community, to face it together, okay? We know that these will require cooperation at the state and federal level, but I think it also requires cooperation between municipalities, right? Norwalk is not in this alone. We're all in this together. I think it also requires thinking about more creative ways to offer tax relief to our most vulnerable neighbors. And it requires compromise. What I'm proposing as an amendment tonight is not fully satisfying the ask of the Board of Ed. I understand that. The same way that we're asking folks around the city to compromise in terms of their tax bills, they will take compromise on the schools as well. one of the things that I think is often lost in these discussions is that when we talk about the quote unquote city budget, that budget includes payments into liability insurance and debt service payments that are entirely for our schools. Right. And so that's included in the city budget. And I think there are ways that having served on the Board of Education for 6 years, I think there are ways that our colleagues on the Board of Ed and in Norwalk Public Schools can think about compromise as well, not in cutting vital programs, but in thinking about ways that we might space that debt service out over a longer period of time. For example, it may mean compromising on some capital improvements and waiting a little longer for some capital improvements. I'll leave that to the board and the school team to discuss and figure out. But for now, my long-winded amendment is to increase the budget cap to $486.3 million, with a view to increasing the Board of Ed budget by 5.2%.
Thank you, Mr. Hobson. Yes. Mr. Schmidt.
Check my math.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Hobson, because I think I understand what the intent is. And I think the intent was to add 0.5% to the overall spending amount. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so we started, I know because there's been some rounding in the mix here. And so I just want to make sure that when we put this into, if it gets adopted, I want to make sure everybody understands exactly what the amount is and what the percentage is. So when the Finance and Claims Committee met, that number was kind of rounded. The amount was 7.04% was the increase amount. And so the dollar amount that you have before you is correct. That reflects 7.04%. If I add a 0.5 percentage point to that, then we get to a number that is, because I think the number you were referencing was a rounded number. The number is actually $218,642 would be the amount. So that would be bringing that overall percentage up from 7.04% to 7.54%. And that's what the dollar amount would be. And then factoring that in, if you assume that additional amount would go to the Board of Education, the increase to the Board of Education would be 4.91%.
I was close.
Okay. It's the rounding. I know you. I know, Councilman, you had some rounded numbers, and so I just wanted to make sure for these purposes and that would get the exact amounts and exact percentages.
Councilmember Hobson, would you like to amend your amendments?
Yes, I'd like to correct my amendment to reflect the correct totals that were just shown in the judgment.
Thank you.
Can you just affirm that the tax levy number is correct? 403,950,802. Would that be the corresponding?
Say that number.
403,915,802. I don't think it matters for the language of the amendment. I'm just.
The tax levy would be 431,375,090.
Okay.
Further comments, questions? Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you, Mayor. So this has been, this is a very tough budget season, and I think one of the most important reasons, and I think the mayor and Colin hit on this earlier, which is the staggering rise in healthcare costs, and that cuts across both the city and the Board of Education. Just to put a finer point on it, it is a $11.4 million increase in healthcare premiums, which out of the list of sort of major increases that the city's facing this year is over half. I think that's important to know because one of the most important things I think government sometimes has a trouble doing is explaining what happens at how various levels of government affect another. And this is a direct effect at how what is going on in Washington, with particularly the passage of the big beautiful bill last year that was passed by the Republican Congress, affects us here at home. You're seeing that right here, and it does have an effect on your property taxes. One thing that I really thought about and agree with Colin with, which is that given that there is going to be a substantial rise in our property taxes, and given the fact that it's not something we want to do, we also don't want to create insult to injury by putting the Board of Education in a particularly tough spot, given the fact that there are a number of programs that could be compromised should we not try and get closer to that budget. That's why I'm going to be supporting Councilmember Hassan's amendment tonight. And I think that this is a season of compromise. I want this to be a season of compromise and resetting a relationship. I thought last year was something that does not need to be repeated. And I want to just take a moment here and now to say that I've had a very good relationship and dealings with, the Board of Education Chair Howard White and various members, but I really enjoyed getting the time to work with him in this particular capacity. And he and I have been speaking regularly through this budget process, as I know also the mayor and the superintendent have. And I think there needs to be and has been a real effort to try and work together collaboratively and responsibly. That being said, there are a lot of things that we need to do and continue doing to work and bring back revenue drivers and frankly respond to the massive impact we faced from both the 2023 reevaluation, which is mandated by the state of Connecticut, but also the fact that these are sort of big tectonic changes when it comes to commercial property and how that's used. And we're just beginning to see the restoration of and then sort of the increased use of various commercial properties. Businesses are coming up and setting up a shop in Norwalk, and it's really important to act fiscally responsibly in a way that both provides relief when necessary, but also make sure that we do not lose our AAA bond rating, which would be a massive impediment to getting more revenue opportunities and being able to grow our business community. So I, with all of that put in perspective, I am going to be voting yes in support of Councilmember Hassan's amendment. I think it is something that I think is a prudent investment in our students, in our school system. And obviously, as council members, we have this step in our process, but we will, and I encourage, other council members to stay involved through the BET's review, and be the advocates that we were elected to be. And then I look forward to watching the BET's review and obviously, and seeing as the budget process progresses that much further. But I think it is really important to try and, meet those basic services as much as possible. And that's why I'm going to be a yes on this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Ms. Ayers, and then Mr. Buckler.
Two questions. Madam Mayor, first of all, if I'm correct, we have an amendment on the floor. Do we need to call for the order of the day so that we can vote up or down on that amendment? I do have a supplementary question, but I would like that answered first.
We will have discussion on the amendment before we vote for it.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. So I do not have a problem with the amendment as stated that was offered by my colleague. I think my issue is more of a procedural issue, as I've sat in this seat for a little time now. We vote one budget at a time, and that's a way of doing things. But I think as a city, we need to kind of plan ahead. I know, Madam Mayor, you came in and some stuff was already rolling down the hill, and I think you and your team have done your best in this very short amount of time. We're still in February, and you just got here in January to get a grip of what is really going on. I encourage my colleagues and I urged on the city staff to begin to think of our budget. We're gonna vote for a year at year, 1 year at a time, but it would be helpful if we could kind of plan in the future, um, so that we can kind of wrap our minds around things that are going to happen. Um, so I just wanted to say that. In addition, I read all the comments. I listen to public participation. And one thing that I keep hearing is that we do not want to cut services for our young people. I agree with that sentiment. I do not think that's a sentiment that could ever be argued. But this is a genuine question that I have. At what point do we not cut services, but reevaluate offerings to make sure that neither the city side or the Board of Ed side is extremely lacking? What's the happy medium? And that's a general question that I have. I have looked through our budget to try to find a happy medium and have not been successful. I do not know if any of my colleagues could even answer that question. Everybody can't get everything every year. And we make these hard decisions and we make this cap every year. And then the BET taps in and do their part. But I would love the conversation to be more surrounded about what we're not cutting or what we're not losing, but essentially what are the things that we most valuably need and how we are maintaining that. Um, I'm very proud of this council. My colleagues have had many conversations with many people to try to get us to tonight, but I still think that there are some looming questions out there that, and not questions of misappropriation, but really questions of how we are going to plan for the next years to come. And I think that that is something that we need to be having multiple conversations about so that when we do get to the time of the budget, we have a better grip on what we can do and what we cannot do. In regards to the amendment that is on the floor currently, um, I do not have a problem with the amendment. I probably would support the amendment as is, as long as y'all not starting to add stuff on it. I will support the amendment as is. Um, and I hope we could continue to talk about how we can get to a place where our backs are not always against the wall. It cannot be easy on either side to feel that there is going to be any shortcoming. And in a world that is full of anxiety and worries, the least should be somebody's job. And so that's kind of my comments. That's kind of where I want to be. But I know it's a struggle. I know we have residents that are struggling now and grappling with what they can do, and any increase is not going to help them, no matter how big or small it is. Any increase, people are hurting now, so no increase is going to help them. But I also think when we say we have to find tax cuts any other places, that doesn't make sense either. How can we find tax cuts if we don't have money to give? So those are just some of the things that I'm wrestling with in my mind currently. Thank you, Mrs. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I do just want to repeat something that I said earlier. Is one of the most important things we do is to find more sources of revenue and increase our grant list. And those are things that are happening. They are happening. I don't want, and I think we want to make sure that we've got to remember how deeply the pandemic affected us. And we're not out of it. So we have to remember that. So I think that that's part of it, is really building our revenue. But Jared, you might want to respond, to Ms. Ayer's question, about planning out, and how we're looking at, 5 and 10-year planning.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for that opportunity. Last year, we started and came up with a framework for a 5-year financial plan for the city. And so our next step, we were doing that simultaneously while putting into place a new budget book product that we've been working off of. And so we started down that road. We are this summer committing to putting in place a full blown with all the projections that we need on the revenue side, all the modeling that we need for not just property tax revenue, but other revenues within the budget, as well as on the spending side as in addition. So our goal is by the end of the summer to have a really solid 5-year projection of the operating budget, to your point. And then on the capital side, starting next year, we will be going to a 10-year capital improvement plan and getting all the department heads in the finance department to think longer term and make that plan really something that we can count on more than what it is now, which is in a lot of cases it's a lot of projects and a lot of money that's really bunched into and crammed into a 5-year period, and really in a 2 or 3 year period. And so we want to really make it more of a plan that we can work off of it and be able to project from. So that is in the works, and so I appreciate that comment.
Thank you. And also I'd like to give Linda an opportunity to share what the Board of Ed is doing in terms of planning out.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of the council. And thank you, Mr. Hostin, for that amendment. I do want to share, you have received the budget book as part of the requirement of the budget book that we produce, the Association of School Business Officers International. We are required to do a 5-year outlook. And so in the budget book that you've been receiving now, I believe for the 4th year in a row, the Board of Ed has been doing 5-year outlooks in the projections. So I'm happy to hear that the city is also looking at that. And so I think what we would then do is we would merge our projections and our projection assumptions into the city's projection assumptions. So we are actually on our way there. I think with respect to the capital budget and the 10-year forecast, I think that's a great, I like that the charter included that. You know that the Board of Ed does have a 25-year plan, and therefore we would be looking at that to incorporate that to the city's 5-year plan. But I think this amendment is helpful. We met this morning with our school principals to start working on the reconciliation, and we did meet to talk about what the targets would look like. And we have been looking potentially at those reductions in the school budgets. So we're hopeful that this amendment will move forward. But I also want to thank members of the board, Jim, and head of the finance committee, and Johan and your team, and Jared. We have been meeting with a subsection of the Board of Ed Finance Committee as well, Garrett Oliver and Sherry McCready Pritchett and myself, ongoing mutual conversations and the collaboration. And so I think we're off to a great start, and the mayor and the superintendent working together as well with your respective teams. And we're happy to provide additional information and answer questions as we go through this process. But thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts as well.
Thank you, Linda. Mr. Buckler.
Thanks. Linda, I actually have a question for you. So I appreciate you sharing everything and really appreciate the amendment that Councilmember Hostin passed forward. So I'm 7 weeks in, and I keep thinking about the taxes that are being raised, and there's significant raises on families here in Norwalk that will push families out. And I understand the risk on that side, but it's hard to understand what the 6.1 million gap means for Norwalk Public Schools. And with Councilmember Hostin's amendment, it essentially cuts that gap, rounding numbers, in half of some sorts. Jared, would that be correct?
Not quite in half. I would say about a third of it.
Okay. A third or
Yeah.
so, rough rounding numbers. So I guess if you could just help illustrate a little bit more and paint the picture from the public school side so we can be better informed to make the decision. What did the 6.1 million gap really mean in terms of what did that picture look like? And then with the amendment, how can that help fix some things at the district level?
Sure. And I think as you've seen in the budget book, what we know is that because of how our schools are funded, the schools in general, 75 to 80% of our budget is personnel. So any reductions, you would be hard pressed to make those adjustments without impacting personnel. And we have the similar challenges on the city side. You know, we're on the health insurance, cost of goods and services, all of those are the same. And so what we would look to do is, to the extent that we can, and I believe the superintendent has shared this, our goal is always to preserve our school positions and school budgets. And therefore, this reduction in the gap allows us to get to achieve that target. And therefore, we will be looking at a lesser impact on schools. And we would also look internally to see what other adjustments we can make as well, just like the city is looking at. But that would really allow us to safeguard the schools and avoid some of the challenges we had last year. And the parents, you've heard some of them speak tonight. I don't have a definite answer as to exactly where those would happen because our school-based budgets are built with our school principals. We look at a number of factors, including enrollment at each school. And so it's not easy to say what the exact reductions would be, but it would be a very minimal impact to our schools at this point if we were funded at the 5.2, 5 whatever that math ends up being percentage.
Thank you.
Thank you, London. And quick question, London, with respect to the insurance costs and the inflationary pressures on the insurance side, can you tell us a little bit about the current plan and what's going to be the long-term impact for residents because of that plan?
Well, we're currently, as you know, on the Board of Ed side, we started off on the same plan as the city after both of us moved from being self-insured. And then about 3 years ago, our teachers union, this is all determined by collective bargaining, our teachers union moved out of the state plan to a high deductible health plan managed by Cigna. What we have been doing to contain insurance costs, a number of factors, some of which the city is doing as well, looking at things like health and wellness. But in our contracts, we do have a cost share. There's an employee share and an employer share. And so for example, with all of our contracts, we have been negotiating employees picking up a higher percentage to the extent that we can agree on that in that contract of the health expenses. So that's one thing we're doing. But a lot, as you know, with health insurance, many of these things are out of our control. Some of these are national trends. Some of these are driven by claims insurance, cost of healthcare. On the state plan, unfortunately, we are in Fairfield County, and the way that the state evaluates or assigns rates, we get a 1% additional, they call it a regional adjustment. So if it's going 2% across the state, Fairfield County would get 2 plus 1%. But the items that we can control within our budget and our control, we are working collectively to manage those. The city and the Board of Ed have the same health insurance advisor. So Terry DeMatti, she works with Jared, she works with me. So we work collectively in managing our insurance costs and insurance rates. And when we go out for renewal and reviews, we do that in collaboration with one another.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So this is my third budget, and for me, it's been the same thing. It's a battle between taxes going up, which ultimately means it's a possibility that people will get kicked out, because usually if taxes going up, rent might go up, because if they own a property, they're gonna, raise the rent, and people are gonna be pushed out. The kids are not gonna be able to go to the schools anyway. They might have to go to places like Bridgeport, and other places that's up north with school systems that's not, that might not be as good as Norwalk. And then on the other hand, you have people, or students being affected by the budget, or teachers, or people might be getting laid off. And I can't see this changing in the future. I feel like this is going to always be an issue. And I feel like even when I'm long gone off the council, we're going to continue. I'm going to make it my business to still listen and be a part of it, because I just feel that this is going to continue to happen. And it's like, in this 3 years, I haven't heard any real solutions. And it's troubling to me, because I could just imagine how our future is. And I'm thinking about who's going to ultimately be affected by these things that we're talking about today. Who's going to be mostly affected by these things? And I'm yet to, because it's such a middle ground, I'm yet to really understand who will be affected the most by the issues that's before us today. Is it going to be the people that continue to get kicked out of Norwalk because of high taxes, high rent, and all these other issues, right? And in my district, I'm just thinking about the people that already can't afford to live here, right? And then on the other hand, a safe, sound school system. So it's a very perplexed issue, and I'm a solution-oriented guy. I'm always thinking about solutions, but I'm at a stalemate. I don't know what we should do. And I feel like this is going to just continue while I'm on the council and long after me, but what's the solution?
Mr. C.
This is tough because I, like many people, when you start campaigning, when I first got into council, it's my third time as well. It's like you come in and you think, okay, I'm going to lower taxes. And then I got elected, and then the revow hit. And it was just like, there's no way really that's going to happen. And it goes, and you look at these numbers, and you see an increase of, even with just the proposal, an increase of over $1,000 a year for most districts. And it's gonna hurt. But like Councilman Hostin said, we're not being truthful and being kind of disingenuous to our constituents if we don't fund the things that matter. A lot of people like to reckon the city as a business, but the city is different than a business. A business is supposed to make as much money for the shareholders. The city is supposed to provide services, and throughout the year we get people from the Board of Ed, parents that come and say, "Hey, I want my kids to have the best education." We also get people from pickleball courts that say, "Hey, we want to have the best pickleball courts." We get Little Leagues players that come in and say, hey, I want to have good quality fields to play on. We get all of these requests, and I think we have come up with some solutions, and we're working on them. Like with the Parks Foundation, advocating for the state to fix not only the ECS funding but also the SPED funding. So I'm torn, and I apologize for being long. But I'm always the one. Hey, we gotta lower taxes. But if I do the math, and of course I'm just thinking, the increase from the proposal to like the 0.5% would be anywhere between like a $50 a year increase to, I think maybe in the 6th tax district it comes down to like $120 increase a year. And once you look at it, where we're already hitting people with an over $1,000 increase a month, that's a small app. And personally, we look at Norwalk Public Schools, and all of the parents. I'm a father of a great 7-year-old at Tracy, and a 4-year-old that's going to be going to Tracy Elementary School. And Miss Esposito and the whole staff there are doing a great job. A lot of us are going to be going to the schools on Monday, reading to the children, and we know the great work that Norwalk Public Schools does. And again, recognized nationally, we have National Principal of the Year, Assistant Principal of the Year. But I've seen personally the impact of people like Mr. T. My neighbor, Joe and Luca, they love Mr. T. And Mr. T not just as a principal, but Mr. T as a role model and a mentor who's involved in their life long after they leave Concord Magnet. And for those reasons, I'll support it because we listen to our constituents, and I've seen it. I've responded to most of the emails, not the ones that we got today, but I hear it. I hear the need. I see the need, and I think it's time for us to be truthful. I can't see going the full, but I do see this as a nice compromise, and I think that that's what we have to do in these positions is compromise. But we also have work to do. We have to look at different ways to raise revenue in the city that doesn't just fall back on the taxpayer in a different way. We have to find ways to advocate in Hartford to improve not only ECS but funding, because we just celebrated at our last meeting the opening of the Ruby Shaw School. You know, in the fall they're adding 4th grade. So that's a whole nother grade that we have to hire teachers and parents and everything to that. So we celebrate these things. It costs money, and we can't keep cutting. And everybody says cut the fat, and there is none. And we look at it, and even when we talk to constituents, and hey, where can you cut the fat? Where do you want to? We don't. We want to be safe. We want to have a quality education. We need quality people to work for our city, to give us the services. So for me, this was a tough decision, but I will be supporting the amendment. And I thank you, Councilman Hostin, for all the work that you've done. Again, it's done in everybody on the finance time, but we do. Our work is still going to continue after this because we do have to come up with, like Councilman Wiggins said, creative solutions to stop this from happening. Because we have year 4 of the reeval that's coming. And year 3 is supposed to be the toughest one, but we don't know what's coming next year. And we just have to do better to prepare for it because people are unfortunately getting pushed out, and they have been getting pushed out in Norwalk for a long time. So we do have to come up with a way to do it and look up for ways to protect our most vulnerable and the people with the least among us so that we could protect the diversity that is in Norwalk, the diversity that makes Norwalk the gem of Connecticut. It's the places where people could choose to go to Darien or Wilton or other school systems, but they choose to come to Norwalk because of the diversity, because of our great school system, and everybody's going to come, people from different income levels, and they're going to be able to live here and come out and be well-rounded. So I'm thanking everybody involved, and I'll be supporting this.
Mr. Talenter.
I was on the Finance and Claims Committee, and I supported the mayor's budget and Jared's budget, and I appreciate all the work you've done. But I have to say I voted that with some reservations. I appreciate the amendment to increase the budget Mainly because I know, a lot of parents have written about it, a lot of parents have spoken about it, and schools have had also a great year. I mean, the performance of the schools have been going up dramatically this year. They had a great year statistical wise, kids improvement. I like to see that going. And looking over some of the other community budgets, they were substantially higher than 4% that we had. So I knew that looking at them, and I think I'm pleased to say that, yeah, I think it's they deserve the increase, and I appreciate the flexibility that you've made to increase, and I will support it.
Yes.
Brian is in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first, I want to thank all the parents and even the children that have been spoken over tonight and over the last couple of weeks. I personally appreciate your concerns, and we don't take it lightly. And I just want to share that I've been very, it's my first year on the council, and this obviously is a very, very tough budget year. But we've put a lot of work in over the last couple of weeks in terms of looking at every possible solution. And I really appreciate. I just want to sort of highlight that my fellow council members have been working hard to sort of educate themselves, and really we don't take this lightly. We take it as a really huge responsibility. We feel the huge responsibility, and we don't want to repeat what's going on, what went on last year. And I was on the finance committee, and I did support the original budget, and and we had some talks after that, and it's fairly obvious that the pressures that the city's facing, obviously the Board of Ed's facing too, and that's driving up their costs. And so I do support Councilman Austin's amendment tonight. And I do want to also highlight, I think what the mayor said earlier is that this is, part of the process. This is, we're setting a cap tonight, but the BET will have their work to do, and we don't want we don't want to repeat what happened last year in terms of the stress that the whole community felt and is still feeling. But hopefully tonight, by increasing the cap from the original recommendation, we kind of reduce that stress as we go through the process. And I just want to make sure that, what people said before, we're all on the same team. We want to get to a place where we're, fiscally responsible, and, funding everything. And, I think just to echo what Councilman Wiggins said, and as Mr. Schmidt highlighted, that we're going to be going through a 5-year plan. And I think once we have that 5-year plan in place, that's the time we can really look at, what are the structural fixes, because this is going to happen over and over again unless we really take some time to understand, what can we make, changes structurally. And that's not going to be an easy conversation either. That's going to be a lot of pain, but at least we'll have insight from the 5-year projections to sort of make those decisions. So thank you for making the amendment, Representative Councilman Austin, and I support it.
Mr. Bailey, Mr. Deckenstein.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I find myself between the horns of dilemma. Historically, before taking office, I stood at the podium and averred to tighten my belt by allowing increased school funds through higher taxes. I also wrote letters in other years for the same thing. I stand by that today, confronted with another property tax increase. That being said, I never dreamed that we would be hit with the increases that we have that are so far beyond our control, beyond the control of the City Council, beyond the control of the Board of Education. It will have an effect if we do this increase. It will also affect commercial property taxes at a time when we're trying to retain and attract commerce in the city to help balance the budget and alleviate the burden on our residential tax group. I just want to make sure that if this goes through, and I am in support of the increase, that there will be equal benefit to all students. And that if this goes through, we have to, it's just a new beginning. We still have to roll up our sleeves. Historically, the Board of Estimate and Taxation has found ways to squeeze more money out of a nickel. They rub their nickels together without impacting the cost of the different agencies and commissions and departments we have. And I'm going to ask them to do that as they have in the past. I'm also going to ask them wherever they find and uncover costs that can be saved to shift them to the Board of Education, to our schools, rather than reduce the budget from what we are about to propose. For me, it's all about the future. It's all about our children. And I would love to be able to fulfill the entire request of the Board of Education and the public school system. I think it'll be too much of an ask of the taxpayers in our community to do that. So I appreciate the work that Councilman Hostin put into this, and I appreciate the work and the scrutiny that our budget team put into this. But let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Degenstein. Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a newly seated council member, this is tough. This is tough work. I appreciate all the parents that reached out to us. I really didn't hear a lot from the parents without children or the seniors in regard to any of this. I'm not sure anybody else has, but I appreciate Councilman Hostin. I'm definitely on board with the agreement, with the amendment. I'm sorry. We do have to sort of meet in the middle, for lack of a better term, and we have to work to make sure there's revenue from somewhere. And I'm sure my colleagues, we will do that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Ms. Winterstrand.
I just want to add some brief remarks. I'm appreciative of the amendment on the floor. Thank you to my colleague, Mr. Hostin. And I just want to thank everyone that's here in the chambers tonight that has advocated, that has reached out, that has expressed the importance of funding really critical services and really critical needs in the city. All the communication we've had with constituents. I am in favor of the amendment. I think it's really important. I'm also extremely aware of the impact on taxpayers, but as Councilmember Hostin has said, you know, this is a really tough year. And I really hate to see the school budget get, you know, and have us land where we were last year. So I just appreciate the advocacy. I appreciate all the communication with us, and I'm going to vote in favor of this. Mr. Bradford.
Thanks. Yeah, I would like to support the amendment as well. I know what it's like to work in underfunded schools, and as a parent and a resident here, I actually think that the one thing we can do is invest in our future. And I do think by bringing some more stability to our school system that is doing really great things, I do think that helps improve the quality of life that we do have here. And when we're talking about trying to bring in more revenue, I think that's one of the most important pieces to shift the burden and bring the commercial tax base back, knowing that we have a strong school system that is supported. And I think there have been a lot of steps, you know, I've been on the external side of this, but a lot of steps in the right direction with collaboration with the Board of Ed and the school system. And I think we can do a lot more there. So I just want to let you know, Mayor, I stand committed with you in the advocacy there are structural issues with the way our schools are funded on property taxes. This conversation is happening in cities and towns across Connecticut because of that. And the fact is that there are multiple things being discussed at the state level right now that we should be advocating together to bring in more state dollars to our schools, so the burden doesn't fall on the residents. And the next piece, I just want to continue to advocate and encourage us to work together to better leverage philanthropy. I don't consider philanthropy a sustainable solution, but when we're talking about gaps and when we're looking to increase and diversify revenue, philanthropy is a key factor to doing that. Public-private partnerships are a key factor to doing that. And I think we could all be collaborating more together to bring in more dollars. We live in one of the wealthiest counties in the country. And I think if funders, both here in our region as well as in the country, can see that our school system and city are committed to working together to fund our schools and improve the quality of life, that we can do more to bring in dollars there. So I know there's so many efforts that we're talking about to increase revenue, but I just want to put that on the record that there is more we can do. And I think there's a lot of really great steps in the right direction to do that. And it's an unfortunate reality of this budget that we have this year. And I really hope with the projections we're talking about and the modeling that we're doing, that we can get more creative in the long run.
Thank you. Mr. Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to my colleagues. If I had known it would have been like this, I would ask for more. But I do want to address very briefly one comment that Ms. Ayers brought up, and I think it's on all of our minds, which is the question of planning ahead and sustainability. Because if we approve a cap that increases our operating budget by 7.54%, that's not sustainable. That's not sustainable, right? We can't do that every year. There will be nobody left in Norwalk to tax. And so, I want to just make sure that we are all recognizing that. I am opposing this amendment, understanding that we can't do this again next year. We literally can't. Mr. Wiggins and others said, it feels like a perennial battle between raising taxes or starving our schools. And frankly, it's not even a battle between that, because we're raising taxes either way, right? It's raising taxes or raising taxes more, and that's not sustainable. I do appreciate the way that everybody has seized upon the opportunity we have to advocate collectively as a council and as a community, for some of the larger systemic changes that we need to actually create a sustainable funding model, because 7.54% is not sustainable. But one thing that Mr. Goldstein said earlier made me think that, yes, we're thinking about a better ECS formula and the spiraling costs of special education. But, I had a conversation in another forum recently where folks were talking about, healthcare subsidies that expired at the federal level. And, somebody said at that meeting that, well, that affects people who are on Husky Care, and, that affects people who don't have good health insurance. Not me, I have good health insurance, right? And that's the thing that I think needs to be said more often, which is that it does affect everyone. It's causing your property taxes to go up. The expiration of federal healthcare subsidies is causing your property taxes to go up, because those costs are trickled down to other patients, insurance customers, right? We look at both the city side and the Board of Ed budget tonight. The single largest driver of increase is healthcare costs. That is causing your property taxes to go up. Let's kind of name it. Yes, let's go to Hartford and advocate for more dollars, but let's make sure that when we hear something like, oh, somebody's losing their health care, that doesn't affect me. Let's make sure that we're advocating for that as well, because it does affect us. And we're seeing it tonight.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. Excuse me, losing my voice coming back. I'll say this. You know, I find myself repeating some of the same stuff every single year, right? And this year is no different. There are different bodies that play a distinct role in the city. The Board of Ed, superintendents, they advocate for students and try to, advocate for as much funding that they think the schools need, right? City side does exactly the same thing to be able to run their operations. The BET has a singular focus to both review both requests or all the requests from both sides from a fiscally or financial lens. For me, in my mind, as an elected official, my mandate is far greater because I have to consider households from various socioeconomic positions. And my request to the Board of Ed is to reach out to all families, as many families as possible, because I'm pretty sure the sample of the parents that come and speak is not reflective of the entire population. Because I know for a fact there are families who are struggling. And it might seem like it's $50, $75, wherever the case may be, but it's not fair. So my request to the Board of Ed is to do that, to really reach out to as many families as you can, because it's the right thing to do. And I don't want certain families who can't afford higher property taxes to speak on behalf of all the families in the school system. So that's just what I wanted to say. So thank you.
Mr. Wigan.
I know Nicole wanted to go first. I'll go after.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Ms. Ayers.
Thank you. Lord, it's late. Council person Houston, I think you have the vote, so breathe a sigh of relief. But I also want to nudge and cheer on my colleague, Councilperson Lopez. I was gonna say something like that, but you said it better. I'm gonna bring it up again. I brought it up the first time I spoke. We acknowledge that this is not sustainable. We acknowledge that this is not sustainable. This increase, we can't do it next year. So what are we going to do next year? You good people, you will be in this seat next year with the same questions, with the same cause. What are we going to do? And I am begging, I am pleading. I hope maybe there's still some Board of Ed representatives in the galley to please really consider those persons who are not able to come, who you do not communicate with. You communicate with parents, but there's a whole other part of the constituency that you don't even talk to. You don't communicate with them. And I'm not saying that your cause is not worthy. Please do not misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm saying we are one community and one town. And we have to think about all residents. And if we are walking into this budget system knowing that we can't do this next year, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Why not start now for next year? Because it's the same thing and we're not going to be able to keep with the increases. We don't have the money to give you. It's not because we don't want to give it to you. We don't have nowhere to pull it from. At least that's my understanding of the budget. And as we continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with you and support our school system, my question is back to the mayor. There's a list of stuff in the city side that we're still not meeting. We're not, there's things at the city side that we are not meeting, and we have not met them since I sat in this seat. And one department that I'm going to say is IT. And my colleague, Mr. Freyer, has said we have a duplication of services. So when we're in a budget crisis like we are, why do we still have a duplication of services? Why do we have 2 IT departments? Constituents, I need you to be asking these questions. Why do we have 2 communication departments? How can we do this differently that will help us? And one thing is not going to fix us. Us going to the state, us getting money for philanthropy, us not having duplication of services, those one things individually are not going to get us where we were. But collectively they might. They really might help us. So I really want to say to parents, keep advocating. You're the best advocator for your child. But advocate for more than just the BOE, because more than just the BOE affects your everyday life. Potholes affect you. Traffic affects you. One of the major things we heard on the campaign trail was how horrible our communications in our website is. But we have had to tighten that up because we can't spend that money how we want to, because we're trying to do other things that seem to be higher priorities. So my comments are not to point fingers at anybody, but to get everybody to constantly think. And so that collectively, with more discussion, we may be able to get farther down the road. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Just to point out, we do seem to talk about this year after year that, duplicating services and where we can work together. But I want to point out that, we've been meeting, Chief of Staff Von Daniels and I have been meeting with all the departments, all of the directors. Today we met with Jits May, our comptroller, and she talked really how much we share services in the comptroller's office with the Board of Education. So that's an area where we are addressing it. I think we'd like to in IT, we kick that around a lot. We'll continue exploring that, but any place where we can. And I know that these discussions have been ongoing between the city and the Board of Ed, and we'll just keep digging in and find other areas where we can do that. Mr. Wiggins.
Thank you, Madam. I just have one question, maybe two, but we haven't spoke a lot about it tonight. About you brought it up about the $4 million from last year.
4.5, yeah.
4.5, and that was the base, correct? Because that wasn't in an initial budget that we.
And we haven't done that in the past. Either.
Yeah. So there wasn't an initial budget that we agreed on. So here, this is for you. So with that 4.5, if they didn't get that, if Mayor didn't, put that as a base, what percentage would that be? Including the 5.2 that you proposed?
It's 4.91.
4.9.
I've been corrected.
What would that, you understand my question? All right.
But just to clarify, you want to know what would happen to the Board of Education?
Yeah, if she didn't make that base stuff.
Yeah, so it would be approximately at about 2% to it.
2%.
Right. So it would, instead of being 4.9, it would be 6.9. Roughly, rough numbers.
And I would say thank you for that, right? Because she technically didn't have to do that, right? Oh.
Well,
because
I felt it was the right thing to do.
No, I agree, but I know every year we can't go lower than what we proposed, but in this case, it was a special case, right? Because of.
Well, there have been other years where there has been some additional funds after, once the city does its reconciliation, or some funds that have come from the state. But mostly in the past, when we've done that, it's been on one-time expenses or whatever, and then it didn't get rolled into the base of the budget. But the reality is the need was still there, right? So that's why I felt it was really important to include that.
Yeah, no,
because those positions, and I think that most of that was for the special education. Dan and Sherry, you can help out here. It was mostly special education and, of course, the music and art programs, right? Oh, Linda.
Hi, thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. And yes, we did have conversations about the 4.5, and I think I talked about it when I did my initial presentation when we had the joint meeting. And yes, the city has come back. I think this was the third year now that the city has provided some supplemental funding to the Board of Ed. And the previous two times, the restrictions were different. I think some of them we were using ARPA funding, additional ARPA funding from the state, and there were some restrictions to that. And those were for one-time expenses. I think the difference this time was that $4.5 million, as you remember, was to reinstate positions. And because we reinstated positions, that funding was appropriated directly to the Board of Ed. And so we considered it a base because that funding went directly to schools. The other two times with that funding stayed with the city, and we basically just handed over bills for the city to pay on our behalf. So that's the distinction between this time and the last time. But again, we're very appreciative that it was considered as part of the base.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just want to acknowledge it because I don't think we talked about that enough, right? Because even though the service is there, I agree with you. We have to acknowledge that, in your leadership that you made that possible. And even though we not presenting it as what did you say? 6.9%. In some ways, we can look at it as 6.9%. Whether we like it or not, we can look at it that way. But I am in agreement. I'm going to agree. I don't want to keep anyone any longer. So hopefully no one else got anything else. But I am in agreement.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one that's saying, right? But as you all know, I'd like to listen to what everybody is saying and just try not to repeat the same thing. But I think you and I being one of the two people that have been around these days the longest.
The longest, yeah.
And I've heard these conversations every single year. And so some of the things that I've heard my colleagues say that really stand out is Mr. Wiggins is you're solution oriented. And it's very hard to find a solution to this problem because we have it every year and it's just going through the motions. But I appreciate all the new folks, and I'm sure it might be a surprise, because it was to me coming on the council to see how this actually worked and how much or not how much authority or say we have in coming up with this budget. We can talk about what we would like to see happen, but in reality, we have to deal with the numbers that are presented before us. But I think, and as Council Member Ayers mentioned too, we have to find a solution to this because we will find ourselves back here next year having the same conversation. And we need to start those conversations about change sooner rather than later. I appreciate you, Mr. Holston, for making the suggestion. I know that I've done that a couple of times, maybe in not the best way, but we've done that. We've all come here and do our best to be as equitable as we can, because when a cut comes, it comes on the city side. The city is the side that really has to go back to the drawing board and try to make some concessions to make this budget process work. So I think, as it's been said, if the grass in the parks is not cut, if you can't recreate the way you want, if there are too many potholes on the streets, people are going to be outraged about that. And so we as council members have to grapple with this every year. And so we may come back to the table saying, what city projects can we do without, right? And so that then puts a burden on it for the following year. So we're just delaying burden. We're just delaying our problems. But I'm glad to hear that we are projecting out the 5 years, because I think that is the right thing to do. But what I think we really need to work on, and I hope with new leadership, and just with the Board of Education, I shouldn't say with new leadership, but just this whole process. How do we communicate better? There needs to be a better level of communication, transparency, and accountability on how we spend our dollars, right? As the city has grown to 93,000, we've got about 12,000 young people, children in the school system. But so we want to support our young people, right? We want to be that city that people come to because not just they love Norwalk, but because we educate children. And so I don't think that's not on the back or the front of everyone's mind as we go through this process every year. But I think the thing that we need to do, Mayor, and I agree with, I'll say it again with Ms. Ayers, we need to be solution oriented and figure out, and as Mr. Dewan said, how do we make those substantial changes? And incrementally, we're not going to change everything all that, at one time, but I would hope to see better communication and transparency of where those dollars and how they're being spent. We have to show that. And I think if we could see that on the Board of Ed side in a clearer way would really help. We can talk about philanthropy, but where we are, we have to be honest, as a country, we don't know where those dollars are going to be coming from. So we have to be creative and mindful of all of that. So I will be supporting this. But the goal is, and I hope that we can do a little better, talk more.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
I was just gonna, all I was gonna do was just request that this be a roll call vote.
Oh, it will be, don't worry. Yeah, I mean, I think we have, we know where everyone is, but this is always a roll call vote. Mr. Steve.
I just wanted to do just one point, just kind of for the public, is that everybody on this council, we're taxpayers as well. We have a mix on the council. We have homeowners, we have renters, we have business owners, we have some people that are retired, we have educators, we have people that work in the nonprofit sector. So we feel the burden of this proposed increase either way. We're your neighbors. And I think sometimes people hear council member and they think that we're this high paid city official, and we're not. We're not all of us. We're here, but we are your neighbors. So we feel it, and I just wanted to note that, like, the members on this council, we're taxpayers, and there's no tax credit for council members. So I just kind of want to highlight that we feel your pain.
Yeah, we sure do. Every one of us. And I really would, Mr. Prayer.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Prayer.
I think this has been a great conversation. The interesting thing is that when we first started at the Finance Committee, and we tabled it and came back in another special meeting. And the suggestion was that we add a couple. I think we were going to raise the cap on the Board of Ed side to 5%. Not 4.9, my friend.
It's actually 5.
5. And I think what happens is that you get sticker shock from looking at the impact of the numbers, what the tax is going to be. And over a course of a week, you start to look at it and say, oh, well, if it's going to be only 26, if it's only going to go up to, or it's going to be $2,700 versus $2,600. Oh, gee, that's not so bad. But the sticker shock was really on the initial number, okay? To go up $2,600 in the first place. Having said that, I am also really excited about the future. We've talked about this, and everybody's, I think, is bought into this thing now. Is that, and Jared and I have had, and Tom have had tons of conversations about how can we make this thing look, instead of a Model T, at least not an Edsel, but some maybe Thunderbird. And I think we can do that. We've kind of, and he's put in a lot of the building blocks in which we can build a foundation on. And I think that the conversation that we have with Luna and the interaction between Sherry and she left. Oh no, she's there. Sherry, Finance Committee, and the city's Finance Committee is really the beginning to move along and get some things done. So I think that we still are not out of the woods yet. If we listen to the rating overview that we got earlier, just before this meeting, which is really kind of scary because they talk about our fund balance and where our fund balance is now is gotta grow. And the only way that it can grow is taxes go, our expenses go down. So we have to be really, really careful, and hopefully the BET can make sure that when they're looking at some of the on capital expense, that we can do something to mitigate our debt service and get that down. That's something that they can do. So, but anyway, I think I'm happy with the 4.9. It's not 5%, but 4.9. Okay, you know, you drive a hard bargain.
For fiscal.
But that's all I'd say. So I think we should just vote on the current motion,
Yes,
and then
we have to, yes.
Yeah, so
We have
let's
to
see what
vote
we'll
on the
do.
amendment and then on the resolution as amended. We probably don't, but you know, just for
People- and they're
fairness sake,
now,
we will
it's
take a
one.
roll call vote. But I would just like to thank this council so much. You know, Jared, when you and I first sat down and then we really started like working on these numbers, I'm not gonna lie, I was nauseous. Nauseous. That sticker shock was very real. But you know, it is what it is, right? We are dealing with so many factors beyond our control. Mr. Hostin, I just really want to thank you for how you approached this amendment. You know, that nauseous feeling that I had, it's like, how much more nauseous can you get? It's if you're looking at the difference between, you know, my taxes are gonna go up. I knew my taxes were gonna go up about 1,200. Now they're gonna go up about 1,250 every year. So that's what, but it's like, it's already bad. What's a little bit more? So I really appreciate the way you approached this. I appreciate your powers of persuasion because they are strong. And I've known that as long as I worked with you. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate the thoughtfulness of this council. I appreciate that, you know, I think we all want to reset from what happened last year. There's no question about it. And so, you know, working together, collaborating together, you know, with our Board of Ed members who are here, with the superintendent, her cabinet, who, you know, everyone, we all want what's best for our kids. We all want what's best for our taxpayers, right? So, you know, and thinking about moving forward and how we have to fund education differently. You know, we've already been talking about it, right? You know, advocating at the state level. I'm also aware that the governor is putting together a blue ribbon panel to look at how we fund education here in the state of Connecticut. We are not alone. Other communities, other cities throughout the entire state are feeling this pain. So I think it's particularly acute here in Fairfield County because we had that, you know, that rush of people who moved here after the pandemic and really, you know, increased our residential property values so much. So I think it's particularly acute here, but everyone's feeling it. So there's a great demand. So that collaborating, and I think it's really important, you know, I've talked about how, you know, working with Mayor Simmons, it's really important we collaborate with other communities and work together. So I know that, you know, they're talking about the date, you know, where they invite the kids up to the Capitol. It's traditionally been May 8th. That date hasn't been set definitively yet, but I'm going to be there. I'll be there. So, you know, I hope everyone will join me if you can. So let us go ahead and for posterity, that roll call vote.
Wait, I'm sorry, to be clear,
Oh, I'm
which
sorry.
one are we
Amendment.
voting on?
Amendment.
All right,
Amendment.
sorry. So we are, I'm going to have you repeat your amendment.
The motion's on the table.
Motion's on the table. Can you say it again? Yes. Okay. For the record. Okay. All right.
No. The motion was to that I put forward and seconded is on the
No.
floor right
The
now.
amendment's on the floor.
It's been
first.
amended.
Yeah. We have to vote on the amendment first, then then your resolution as amended. Okay.
Right.
So first we'll vote on the amendment.
So the amendment, and just to remind everybody, so this is the vote on the maximum limit of the total appropriation. So It's gonna be stated in terms of the dollars of the full budget. And so that, the amount that's in there now that's on the agenda, 483, 978, 290 would become 486, 218, 642.
Okay, so we will go ahead and call the roll call vote for the amendment in that amount.
Ms. Ayers.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, the last part of what you said, you went out. What was the last part of what you said?
Oh, it was the figure that Jared, we're voting on the amendment to increase the cap by 486,218,000.
By 0.5%.
By well, we have a figure.
You need to have the number. You have to have the exact number.
You want to repeat that again? Please, Jared.
483.
It was 480.
486,218,642.
Okay.
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 4.
Yes.
Mr. Bucklow.
Yes.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Mr. Austin.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Sawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Seed.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Ms. Edie.
Yes.
Ms. Wennerstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Dallinger.
Yes.
Mr. Freya.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the amendment is unanimous, and so now we will vote on the resolution with the amended cap of $486,218,642.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Bucklow.
Yes.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Mr. Austin.
Yes.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Mr. Sawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Seed.
Yes.
Mr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Ms. Edie.
Yes.
Ms. Wennerstrom.
Yes.
Mr. Degenstein.
Yes.
Mr. Dellinger.
Yes.
Mr. Freya.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have two.
One, just.
I think there's one more. No, I've written all over my agenda, so I have to find. I think we are going to, okay, so item B3, under ordinance, Mr. Seed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll be brief. I want to approve, move that we approve changes to chapter 112A, vape shops, section 112A-13 penalties, and I'd like to speak to it briefly. So with this, I just kind of wanted to highlight the great work that the Norwalk Police Department has been doing. We've put in place this vape shop ordinance with the great work of Councilman Lopez last year. However, we did just a $250 penalty during that period. And the police, if you've been following them on social media, you're seeing that they've been busting vape shops weekly. And the fine of just a standard $250 is just not enough. So what we're doing here is we're increasing it to $250 a day. And really just beefing it up to do as much as we can in the city to make sure that we're keeping our city safe and also helping our police department with enforcement. So I just really wanted to highlight that and just say great job to the police department. We're doing our job to try to help with enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Seed. Mr. Wiggins.
So just a quick question. The $200 before was a month?
It was just
Or
a standard $250.
Every time they, they got caught with
Yes.
doing whatever. Now it's daily until when does it stop?
Until they rectify it. So until they stop, it's $250 a day. And once their license is revoked, if they're continuing to do it, then it's $250 a day after that. So until they stop and they rectify the issue of selling THC products.
Like, what's the definition of rectifying in that case? I'm just really curious to know. Like, I agree, but I just want to.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the level. So like the first offense, they charge $250. That one is just like, okay, you stop doing it, you stop selling THC. You find the second time, your license is suspended for, I believe, 6 months. And then on the third offense, if it happens within a 12-month period, then your license is removed for good. And then it's $250 a day till you stop. But right now with the $250, they're just like, okay, well, we won't stop, we won't do anything, and we just keep doing it.
But if their license is suspended, they're not supposed to be operating anyway.
Well, they're not supposed to be operating anywhere because there's only 3 dispensaries in the city of Norwalk that can sell THC products. So they're not supposed to be selling THC products at all. But these smoke shops are operated under.
So what I'm asking is, when their license is suspended, like their store is still open, or like,
well,
what happens when their license is?
Well, if their license is suspended, then they could get shut down. The health department and the police, they could shut them down where they can't operate, and then it becomes a problem with the landlord where they like an unlawful business.
So what? So how would that's what I'm trying to understand. So when does it? If they don't have a business, the $250 doesn't mean anything, right? Like, what if their business is shut down? Maybe I'm just not.
Well, the point is the biggest thing is we don't want these products on
No,
the show.
agreed.
So if the business goes out, then that's one of the biggest things, that they're not operated in the city of Norwalk.
Councilman Steve?
Yes.
If I could be helpful just for one moment. Councilman Wiggins has actually honed in on an issue that is a major one of concern, frankly, for enforcement. And why we are looking at potentially further amendments to the considerations for further amendments to the ordinance, because it's a continuing problem, not just in Norwalk, but throughout the state. And you honed in on the issue of okay, so the business goes up, they go out of business. How do you collect your fines? It's very hard if they don't have a real estate that we could eventually put a lien on. We're going to continue to further explore opportunities to enhance the ordinance as we encounter continued difficulties with enforcement. I think as we experience new issues with enforcement, that may lead to additional amendments to the ordinance. But the issue that you brought up is one that is a problem. It hasn't been as much of a problem yet, but it could end up being a bigger problem and could result in us having new amendments at some point to the ordinance as we continue to try to do a more effective job at enforcement.
Yeah, I just didn't get it, but he's confirming it. Kind of, I don't understand it.
The work continues.
I think I get Mr. Wiggins' point. Like, I think in the previous iteration, if an organization was fined, that was capped at $250, which is total set by the state, and then they could continue operating. And the proposed amendment, that fine can be imposed daily, and then on the second offense, they can lose their license. Yeah. Okay, to regain their license, they would have to, for example, pay any outstanding fines. Yep. They would not be in operation, but they would have
that makes sense. That's all I was trying to. Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm also a lawyer.
There's so many hats. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions, and that carries unanimously. And yes, Ms. Young. All in favor? We are adjourned. Great job, everybody.
Thank you.